Hey guys, welcome to the recap for Young and the Restless for February 19th, 2019. I'm in Canada, so it's a day ahead of those in the US. So if you don't want to know spoilers, don't watch. And today's episode is a special tribute to Melody Scott Thomas, who is celebrating 40 years on Young and the Restless today. So stay tuned and I'll give you a summary and recap of what happened. Okay, the episode starts out with Nikki being in her prison cell and a guard coming and bringing her a box of items. It's got pictures of photo album, papers, and file folders. Nikki thanks the guard. She puts the box on the table. She opens it up and it's a picture of Nikki as a young girl. Nikki then starts to write a letter to all her grandchildren, wanting them to know the story of her life in her own words, as opposed to what the newspapers will say in case she gets convicted of murder. She talks about being raised by her mother once her father had left and until her mother died. And then Casey taking over and becoming a doctor and helping them pay the bills that way. She talks about meeting Paul Williams at high school and dating him for a while until she meets her first husband, Greg Foster. And she says that, she wasn't really cut out to be a wife and ended up joining a cult, which she tried to get Paul to join, which he did for a little while until he decided it wasn't for him and moved on. After that, she got a job working at the strip club, and everybody not approving of her choice of working at the strip club, but she says she doesn't regret it for a moment and really enjoyed it. And that is where she met Victor Newman one night while she was working. Nikki then talks about the numerous times she's been married and goes through her full name with all the last names attached to it. Then she talks fondly about her friend Jack and that they had a relationship for a while, but they're better off as good friends, and talks more about the love of her life, Victor Newman. She goes into one of the times when they first kiss, and she says to him about she wants him to show her he cares about her by giving her a kiss instead of giving her things. And they argue a little bit about it and finally share a nice kiss. It shows a flashback of their first wedding. And Nikki talks about that they've gotten together and broken up a few times over the years, but their love has always seen her through their darkest times. In another flashback, it shows the time when Nikki was in the stable surrounded by roses, and Victor came in on horseback with a horse for Nikki and proposes to her. Nikki starts talking about her addiction and her battle with MS, and the show shows flashbacks of her talking with Catherine Chancellor about her addiction and denying that she has an addiction, to her arguing with Jack about it, and to Victor pouring out her alcohol and saying that she's not listening to what he has to say and that she doesn't care about him and her kids, and she says she is listening to him. To a conversation she has with Neil where she says she doesn't need rehab, and he says to her that she did and to let people help her. Nikki talks about that the grandchildren are probably saying, oh, what kind of advice can you give? You're in jail. And talks about her children and how important they are to her. And it flashes back to when Jack and her lost their son and his heart was donated to save another boy, to when Cassie died and wondering why she left the hospital that day, to not always being happy about the choices of who Nick and Victoria were dating, for example, Sharon or Billy Abbott, and then arguing with them about it, to having to accept the fact that sometimes they're happy and you just have to let it go, to when, no matter what, you will always do everything you can to make sure your child is happy and safe. And she thinks about saving Victoria from JT with the fire poker and telling Nick about the story. Nikki then starts talking about her friend Catherine Chancellor, how she was like a second mother to her, and how she taught her that it's important to tell people how much they mean to them and never let a day go by. So that's why she tries to let her children and her grandchildren and people close to her know how much they mean to her because of what Catherine said. In the flashbacks, it shows Catherine talking to her about when they first meet, introducing themselves, and advising Nikki on how to seduce Victor and what to do in bed with him in case, she wasn't up on the latest techniques. And to when Nikki got out of the hospital and Catherine basically saying, I know you, that you'll want to go and run and do a marathon shopping spree. And as Nikki's writing this, the guard shows up outside her door. The final flashback shows the time when Victor faked his death and Nikki was talking to him at his gravesite, and he shows up behind her and explains to her that he was alive and well and in Genoa City. The last scene is Nikki signing off her letter and saying she hopes that her grandchildren understand her better and really understand what her motives have been and feel closer to her. Well, that's all for this recap. I hope you enjoyed it. And tune in tomorrow for the next episode. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.